Welcome to iOS Today. Today, we're going to look at my top 10 apps.
And I'm going to show you an app that lets you copy and paste text in all sorts of formats.
And I'm going to show you how you can film from two cameras on your iPhone at the same time.
What? That sounds awesome. And this is iOS Today.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This episode of iOS Today is brought to you by IT Pro TV. Now you can look forward to a successful new year where you can get a new career in IT with the best IT education around. Visit itpro.tv/twit for an additional 30% off all consumer subscriptions for the lifetime of your active subscription. Just use code TWIT30 at checkout. Welcome to a new year of iOS Today. I am one of your hosts, Mikah Sargent, and yes, things have changed. We did announce it in the outgoing of the past year. I am joined by former guest and now my co-host. It's Rosemary Orchard. Welcome officially to the show, Rosemary.
Thank you very much. I am super excited to be here. This is going to be so much fun, Mikah.
I am pumped. Like I said to you, I think personally, and I said to some of my fellow colleagues here at TWiT, one of the things that's always been so fun is that you come up with these apps that I'd never heard of or only heard of in passing, and you show me these cool things that you can do. And so I'm really excited for you to get to do that for all of our listeners and viewers out there who already love iOS, but we're going to take things, even further with the understanding that you have for sure. So I'm looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it too. There's so much that I've learned from this show. It was one of the first podcasts that I listened to back when it was called, when it was the iPad show. So I'm really glad to actually be part of that now.
Yay. And of course, this is the show where we talk all things iOS, tvOS, watchOS, iPadOS, HomePodOS, pretty much all the OSs that Apple releases, save for macOS, although that does get mentions from time to time. And, I thought the best way to start this new year, this new show, is to talk about some of your favorite apps, Rosemary, some of the apps that you use on the regular. And it was funny. I think you said something along the lines of, I hope we have, multiple hours to talk because you've got a lot of apps that you use. So somehow you worked really hard to narrow it down to 10 of your most, is it most used, most favorite, or do those both kind of mean the same thing for you?
It's a combination between the two. I picked based on both what I open every single day, the things that show up in Siri suggestions for me, and also, just the things that even if I don't use them super frequently, I really love it, and they genuinely make my life much easier when I use them. And some of them I don't necessarily use actively; they run in the background. We will talk about that as we get to them. But they all, they're all part of my life, and they're all lots of fun.
So let us begin. What is the first app you want to talk about today?
Well, one of the reasons why I love iOS so much is the Shortcuts app, because it's just such an amazing app. So for people not familiar, it started out as Workflow. It was originally written by a team of people who jailbroke the app, which is just amazing. Jailbroke iOS. And then they wrote Workflow. Apple bought it. It's now Shortcuts. It ships for free on the operating system, and it has all of these automations built into it. So I use this for so many things. I've got 822 shortcuts at my last count.
822?
Yeah, wow. Yeah. So, I'm attempting to rival Matthew Casanelli, who's your co-host on Smart Tech Today, because we both love shortcuts, and there's so many things you can do with it. And I do all sorts of things like, set reminders to empty the washing machine based on the energy usage of my washing machine, and things like that. So it checks whether or not the washing machine has, stopped drawing power, and then goes, hey, it's probably finished the cycle. You should go empty it, which usually means I get there right about on time. And of course, one of the shortcuts that I have, which I have mentioned here on the show before when I was a guest, is my TWiT app format shortcut. So obviously, for the show, we like to talk about apps. Today, I had to pick 10 of my favorite apps. And I just typed all of those into this shortcut, and it went and it looked in the App Store. It got the official name of the app. It got the price and it got the URL and gave them to me in tab separated format. And I just pasted them into the Google Doc, and that was it. So all of this information that's right here for you, Mikah, and for all of the team who are running things behind the scenes, that was all generated with a shortcut. I had to provide some input, obviously, but it just makes my life so much easier.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, because I think that one of the things, let me switch back to my face here. One of the things that people kind of, they hear about shortcuts and they maybe don't think about what it could actually do for them. And I don't use a whole lot of shortcuts, but there are some shortcuts that I do use regularly. And I'm curious, do you feel, and sort of try to put on the most honest cap you have and really consider, do you feel that the investment in the time that it takes to sort of create the shortcut or come up with the idea for the shortcut, has that truly resulted in you saving time over time? And I'm going to think that the answer is yes, it has. But I think it's good to hear that and to know that, there is some sort of onboarding. There's a bit of a learning curve. But when you take the time to create a shortcut, you do end up saving time in the long run.
Yes. Yeah. So I absolutely do. And I've created some crazy shortcuts with hundreds of actions. And for a lot of people, I could see them definitely seeing that as more of a time sink than a time saver. But my purpose when I'm doing this is not just saving time, it's also increasing accuracy. Because that for me is the other problem. If I have a project which I need to complete, there are certain tasks that I need to complete in that. And I need to make sure all of those tasks are added to that project every single time. So for every single episode of iOS Today, I need to make sure that I've done the app preparation. I need to go through and read all the news. I need to look at our feedback, and I need to pick an app cap. And then I have to pick an actual cap to wear for the app cap. And those are all actions that I need to include in my projects. And one of the ways that I do that is with shortcuts. Because it means that all of those get added every single time. And it means if we move the show to another day, then I can easily generate that project and put it in on the right date, and we're done. It's easy. But what I would suggest for people who want to save a lot of time with shortcuts is to go in the gallery. There's suggested shortcuts and suggested automations. And these are amazing. So for example, if it sees that you frequently, do these things at this time, it might suggest that as an automation. All of that sort of thing. It's right there and it's great. And the automations are things that you can do to really make your life easier. So for example, if you love having the calculator app in Control Center, but you don't like the calculator app, you prefer pCalc, that's something that you can actually do. You can use when I open the calculator app, open pCalc and have it run automatically. You still open calculator from the Control Center, but then it briefly shows calculator and then it jumps over to pCalc for you. And voila, you have your calculator app of choice with the convenient app of choice. And this works for the camera as well. And so you can choose something like Halid or any of the other great camera apps out there to be your default camera app. But you and you still get Control Center and all of those other things.
Interesting. That is one. See, there we go already. That's a tip because I love pCalc. I love James Thompson, the creator of pCalc. And of course, every time there's a new update or a new app that he creates or something like that, I always go and grab it. But having that shortcut in Control Center to the calculator in the events where I need it is what keeps me using the calculator instead of going and finding pCalc and launching pCalc. But I didn't consider that I could create a quick shortcut that says, hey, just every time you tap on this, go ahead and launch that. So I'm going to have to do that. And going farther, like you said, with the camera, I do want to use cameras outside of just the built-in camera for iOS and for my iPhone. And so being able to just automatically open my camera of choice is really nice. I hadn't thought about that one. Now, someone in the IRC chat, in the live chat said, 800 shortcuts. I don't think I have 300 long ways to do in my whole existence. And so this is another point that I think is something to explore here. Do you feel like it depends on the sort of either be it your job, your vocation, your hobby, when they are particularly suited to repetitive tasks that need to be done over and over again? Or is it just that this person hasn't realized places where automation could help them? Excuse me. So in other words, if you're a writer, you're probably going to have a lot more shortcut options than if you are a plumber or something like that. Do you feel like that's the case? Or is it just, the plumber hasn't thought about the 100 ways that shortcuts could be of use to them?
I mean, if you're going to be using your device all the time, then naturally there are going to be way more automation options open to you, because unless somebody's automated doing things like installing new heating, fixing toilets, and all of the other great things that plumbers do, then it's going to be more difficult to fix that with shortcuts. But there are definitely ways that everybody can use shortcuts. So, for example, if you're a plumber and you have appointments and you need to just add it to your calendar and you want things to go to a specific calendar very quickly, then you can just quickly have a shortcut that asks you for the date and time, whatever the name of the client is, and things like that. And that could send that both to your billing system and put it in your calendar at the same time. And that is something that, you might not think about, but it could possibly save you an administrative assistant, which I know that, a lot of plumbers don't necessarily have an administrative assistant, but they might wish that they had one. And here we go. That's a way that you could do it. So there's lots of things that you can do.
Yeah. Makes sense. All right, let us move on to your next app. What's up next?
Well, the next one I kind of teased a little bit with shortcuts. It's OmniFocus. OmniFocus is my task manager of choice. I love OmniFocus. It is definitely a high-level task management system. It's designed around the Getting Things Done book written by David Allen. But it works really well. So what I have is inside of my projects area, I have folders. So I've got a folder for podcasts, and obviously iOS Today is now in there. But what I love is the infinite depth. So each episode of iOS Today gets its own project. But then inside of that project, I can have pre-production, during production, and post-production items.
Now, are the folders the things on the left side here? Are those folders?
Yeah, they would be shown on the left side under projects. So if you tap on projects, then you can add folders and projects inside of those folders.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Yeah, I see folders.
Yeah, so if you look in the bottom, so you can have a folder. So I actually have podcasts, and then inside of podcasts, I have a folder for iOS Today. And I love to be able to go down depth-wise and set due dates on projects and tasks, which are then just automatically inherited. And that just makes my life so much easier, because now I have a project for every single episode of iOS Today. And I love the fact that on every screen, there's the ability to add a task to the inbox, which is what you're doing right now. And that won't necessarily put it in a project unless I select a project. But it means that's then captured, because it's super easy to just capture items, and it's very automation friendly. So there's a whole scripting thing that you can do inside of OmniFocus where you can download and install scripts and things like that, which is just great. I love it. But I mean, I write my own because I'm a developer and I'm that kind of nerd, but it integrates with shortcuts. It integrates with drafts, a whole bunch of action things. And they've got a web app as well. So if you do need to access it while you're on Windows, you can do that. So when I had a Windows machine for a little while at work, I had the web app, and that worked really well. But I just love the fact that there's the flagging, there's tagging with geolocation. Not that I'm going anywhere right now, obviously, but it meant that if I came to the TWiT studios, then I could have a little thing pop up that says, "Hey, leave some yarn for Mikah in his office," as a little surprise,
that would be
or
awesome.
something like that. Yeah, exactly.
This seems very, very, very powerful, very detailed, very.
It is. Yeah, but what I love in the iOS app is you can actually customize the inspector, which was the slide over that you just had. And so if you edit a task, then you can actually customize this right here. If you scroll to the bottom of that little window, then you can customize this inspector. So if you don't want to see things, like, for example, flags, if you say flags aren't useful to me, then you can remove it on the left and you can hide it in the inspector, and then it's gone. So you could just have a task and a project and a due date and nothing else.
Gotcha.
and make it very simple. Or you can do what I do, which is make everything overly complicated. But it does mean that I actually get everything done. So my app cat was picked this morning. The apps were picked yesterday, and all of this, so that I was actually ready to come on the show today, which certainly was helpful for you, I think.
Yes, it was indeed. OmniFocus is one that I have heard a lot of people talk about. A lot of people really like this app, really swear by it, and feel like they get things done because of OmniFocus. It seems intimidating. I will say that. Looking at it, it seems intimidating. And I imagine that when you first started using it, you may have felt the same, and it took some time to understand it. Do you have an estimation for like how long it took you to go all in on OmniFocus and use it as your task manager? And now I would imagine it's one of the first things that you check in a day, right?
Yeah, it's one of the first things I check in a day, one of the last things I check in a day, and I'm checking it not constantly, but I'm checking in on it multiple times a day. I will say it definitely took me a while, but I came from a web application, still exists, called Toodaloo, which was also relatively complex. But I'm fortunate that I found this through Merlin Mann and 43 Folders, and there were a lot of great guides and things on there, which made me think that OmniFocus would be the tool for me. And as with all of these tools where you can go super nerdy, super complex, there's also just a way of keeping it very simple, which is just, in this case, input your tasks, add due dates to the things that have due dates, and then maybe start adding projects, but figure the rest out when you go, hey, it would be really neat for these things to pop up and remind me that I need to buy them when I get to the store. So you can then look at tags when that comes up. But until that comes up, you don't need to look at it. But it very much depends on your use case as to whether or not, something like this, you need to spend a lot of time learning it, or maybe the best way of learning is by doing.
Yeah. Okay. OmniFocus. Check. Get it. What is next on your list?
Well, once again, I managed to tease it in the previous app. It's Drafts. Drafts by Agile Tortoise. This is such a great application. It started out back when copy and paste did not exist on the iPhone. And Greg Pierce, the developer behind Agile Tortoise, was writing a text message to his wife and realized it should be an email. And copy and paste did not exist. So he had to, figure something out. And there are all these URL schemes on iOS, so that's how it started. Nowadays, Drafts is a lot more. It has tags for each draft. It has actions. You can have workspaces, which are the ability to find drafts with specific search terms or tags, and then open specific action groups like you're showing on the right. And what I really, really love is it's no longer just a place to write some text and then send it as a text message or an email or to your task manager or whatever it is once you've decided it. It's now a place where I can write and keep text. And I write articles in it. I've written books partially in in Drafts.
Wow.
With some help from OmniFocus. They did have to go elsewhere eventually. But it's great for just forcing me to just write the text down. And I've done all sorts of things with it, including write some actions. Because one of the things that I like to do with Drafts is I just open it up and I just start writing and I take a whole bunch of notes and then I try and split it up so each idea is a line, because that for me is really quick. I can type very quickly. I've got that lovely Magic Keyboard on the iPad Pro. So I write and I hit return and I add, lots of things to a draft, but then I like to split them up into multiple drafts so I can send this over to OmniFocus, and this can maybe go to shortcuts, and then, something else could, be a text message to a friend. So what I've done for that is I've actually created an action, which hopefully, Mikah, you have spotted the link to in the show notes. If not, I can help guide you to it.
Yes. Okay. Is it in that first page there?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Let me grab that.
So this is an action that I have created. So I've written some actions for drafts over the years, and some actions can be super easy to write, and other actions can, be a little bit more work. So I've written an entire action group based around OmniFocus's task paper, and that's quite complex. We're not going to get into that here today, but this other action group that I've written just takes every single line in your draft and goes, boom, here's a new draft with it, and then it gets rid of the old one for you. So
let me, do I just choose install here?
Yeah. If you just pick install, then that should, open it.
Drafts.
And then you can choose which action group you want to put it in. I think you've got the basic action group open. So if you pick basic,
I'll do that.
Then it should be at the bottom of that list on your right-hand side. Maybe not. Interesting. Where'd it go?
Where are you? What's
well,
it
if you
called
click
again?
on the magnifying glass in the top right-ish, underneath the Wi-Fi icon, then you can start typing lines to drafts.
There it is. Lines
there we
to
go.
drafts. Okay, so I choose that.
So now if we just tap on this, your draft has disappeared. It's magic. But if you open the list of drafts on the left-hand side.
Is that the page?
Yep, exactly.
Aha.
You have 4 drafts at the top, which were those 4 lines in that draft you had open.
Wow.
You'll notice you had a blank line in there. It ignored that, skipped on to the next one. But it means that then I can action each of those lines by itself.
So then I could take this one and send it to where I wanted it to go.
Exactly.
So you literally will just type out. It can be a 15-sentence line that goes somewhere. And basically hitting enter is what causes the next draft to go somewhere else.
Pretty much, yeah. And I did this because I like to do these things called brain dumps where I just sit and I write down all the things that are bothering me. But writing Command N or typing Command N every time, sometimes it interrupts the flow a little bit. Sometimes I'm there basing things on things that I've already written, stuff like that. And so I decided that it was easiest just to write a draft and then split it up. But I could do it manually, or I could write an action for it. So I wrote an action for it. And the action directory is one of the best selling points of drafts because it really allows you to get nerdy and customize it to your needs. And there's a whole user guide over at getdrafts.com where you can find out how to create your own actions as well, which can be quite simple. Just insert text. So every time I tap the Mikah button, it inserts Mikah Sargent is amazing, for example. Or if I tap iOS, then it might insert iOS today, things like that. And so there's a whole bunch of options, and it's great.
Yeah, that's okay. That's very cool. Drafts is another one of those that I've heard so much about, and that there are people who just absolutely love drafts. They use drafts, they breathe drafts, they cry drafts, and I wish it's one of those where I kind of feel it's a little FOMO-y that I'm not big into drafts, but it hasn't fit into my workflow personally. But I always get so inspired and excited when people talk about drafts because I think that it's a very cool app that is very powerful, and I have it on all of my devices in the hopes that one day it will become something that's important to me, just because it's like, I know I must be missing something because so many people love this app and use it so much. So yeah, it's there and it's ready for me whenever I want it. And yeah, we'll see. We'll see eventually.
It's one of those that at some point you'll find a perfect place for it to fit in your workflow. And until that point, it kind of seems like this black magic. But then suddenly one day it clicks and then you start doing everything in drafts. One thing I love for it is the dictation. Dictation on iOS times out at 30 seconds. Drafts has got a magic dictation loop. So when you press the magic dictation button in drafts, when you create a new draft, it just doesn't time out. It just keeps listening.
Oh, that's good.
Amazing.
Yeah. That's really good.
So if you want to dictate for ages, then it works really well.
I think as one, in many cases, intends to do. So that's nice to know that you can do that. Tell me what's next. This is one of my favorite apps.
I love this app so much. Carrot Weather. Who does not want fun jokes as they check their weather? And if you don't, then you can turn it off and make it into a professional weather app. But it's just beautifully designed. There's home screen widgets, of course. And I love so if you go into the settings, then there's a hidden hidden location search.
Oh, secret.
Which you can, it's under the secret locations, and you have to try and find different secret locations. This is just so much fun for, trying to find places around the world. So you've already unlocked the White House and a couple of other places, which I'm sure you're familiar with. And I believe the tallest building Tom Cruise ever scaled was in Dubai. So if you can find Dubai, this is where my geography, really has to improve.
Terrible
because sometimes
at geography.
I know you need to go further east. That much I can tell you.
Isn't it
I'm not sure how much
here
further
somewhere?
Possibly. I'm
looking
at this in quite a small window, to be fair. So maybe the chat room can help us here.
Where's Dubai? Isn't Dubai around Saudi Arabia?
I know it's in that area generally, but
it's somewhere east, I think.
Yeah, I know it. Yeah, I know it's east. I have a friend who lives there, and I now feel terrible that I don't remember where she is in the world.
The chat room is not helping me out for the first time ever in the history of life.
They're talking about Clippy. Come on, chat room. Okay, you were in the right place, Ish. Do you know where Oman is?
Oh man, I do not.
Okay,
there's Oman.
So,
there's Dubai. Found it.
Okay, so now we just need to scroll in, and it should be flashing something to say.
Is it the Burj Khalifa?
I think so. I know that it was in a recent film, and it was one of the tallest buildings. There we go. I believe.
Oh wait, did that work? I did.
There we go.
I crashed the app. Oh wait, there we go. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh wait, but this is just.
There we go.
That's it. Got it.
Yeah. Yep. So we found the secret location, and it's a fun game that you can play in a weather app. Come on, how can you not love that? And there's all sorts of things, like if you poke the ocular sensor that's on screen, then it just tells
ocular
you
sensor.
Don't do that.
Don't do that.
It's got fun secrets in, but also just look at it. Isn't it lovely? It's got this great display of the weather. If you tap on a day, it just scrolls forward to that day, and all of those things.
And what I like too is you can set what you want. Oh my goodness. You can set what you want, how kind of mean you want it to be. And so in my case, I don't think I've set it all the way because I knew that I would be showing this app off regularly. And so and this is the other great thing. So I talked to, back when I was working at iMore, we had the developer of Carrot Weather on the iMore show. And he literally writes these little messages all the time. And so oftentimes you'll see some pop culture references that are very up to date. For example, the one today, which says, "This is all Bean Dad's fault." And if you've been on Twitter, you probably know who Bean Dad is and that whole story that went down. And I think that's incredible that, he continues to update these and keep them regular. But in the settings, we can go in here and we can choose for personality. Oh, I guess I did. No. So you can go all the way from, let me try and turn
Professional, I believe, is on the far left. And then overkill is far right. And overkill is just
that's
insane.
Where there are bad words.
Yes, exactly. I leave mine at homicidal because it's still very funny. And I love the fact that you can change, your political stance to an extent. It doesn't promote anything that it shouldn't be promoting. It stays on the safe side of things, but it works. And there's weather complications for your Apple Watch as well, which is really nice. I also love that it integrates with NetAtmo. So I have a NetAtmo weather station here, and I can actually have it use my local NetAtmo weather station when I'm at home. So I actually have super localized weather for me, which is just amazing. And then when I go somewhere else, say my parents' place, actually I'm signed into their NetAtmo account as well. But if I went somewhere else, then, it would also have, regular weather for those locations.
Yeah. Carrot Weather's, Dark Sky was my app of choice. But Dark Sky, it still can be, but Carrot Weather is the one that I actually like to use in terms of complications on my watch and, for my actual iPhone itself. There's personality, there's I think really good design. And I all around a very good app. $4.99 in the App Store. What is next? This is one that Leo and I have both talked a lot about, both love.
Yeah. So this is another indie developer app. It's Apollo for Reddit specifically. And I love this app. It is a great Reddit application. It's available on iPhone, iPad, and M1 Mac. If you want it on your M1 Mac, then you can install the iPad version, which is lovely. But it's just got great features. So if you're scrolling down and you hit the time and accidentally scroll all the way to the top, when you hit the time again, it scrolls you back down. You can customize swipe settings to upvote and downvote or reply and favorite and things like that. And the developer is super responsive, and every money makes money or raises money, and donates it to a cat rescue in Canada, which is just lovely. It's a no-kill shelter, and he's one of the good guys, and raises money to help them out as well, which is great. There's lots of good features. And it's kind of funny if you look at the Reddit for mobile requests that pop up, then you actually see lots of people requesting things. And every time I look at it, I go, this already exists in Apollo, which is great. And of course, there's cat pictures on Reddit, which is great. But there's also a shortcut subreddit, which is super helpful. And so if you're interested in shortcuts, then this is a great subreddit. And the people there are super helpful. The only thing I'll say is make sure you search first. Because otherwise, sometimes the question's already been asked several times, and people will tell you that the question has been asked multiple times before.
Yes, they're very serious about that. I've seen that in a lot of them. All right, there's Apollo. Let us take a quick break before we come back with your next app pick, the top 10 apps from Rosemary Orchard in this, our first episode with Rosemary Orchard as the official co-host of iOS Today. This episode of iOS Today is brought to you by IT Pro TV. We love IT Pro TV here at TWiT. They have been supporting us for so long, and it is awesome to have them here on the network. It's a new year, 2021, full of amazing opportunities, and IT Pro TV is one of those amazing opportunities. IT Pro TV has exactly what you need to get started on the right foot in IT education. You can get professional and entertaining IT training from the comfort and safety of your own home. January is Getting Started in IT month at IT Pro TV. It's a great time to start a new career in the IT industry, which continues to grow even during COVID. This month, you can catch 2 webinars for building IT for budding IT pros, a free training weekend with 5 courses available at no charge, plus tons of videos on their YouTube channel about starting a new career. With plans for business that your IT team will actually use, or a personal plan that will help you accelerate your IT career, IT Pro TV is your one-stop shop. You can get training in Microsoft and Cisco and Apple and Linux and more, and you'll be able to earn IT certifications while improving your IT skills. There are over 5,800 hours of IT training and are also the only official video training partner for CompTIA. If you're worried about staying on track, well, don't. You can get one of their learning coaches along with all of their wonderful job resources to help guide you on your career path. You'll always be supported with IT Pro TV's amazing team. For more insight about IT, you can also check out their podcast, Technado, with Don Pizzette, featuring industry guests and IT news recaps for a deeper dive into the IT realm. Now you can look forward to a successful new year where you can get a new career in IT with the best IT education around. You go to itpro.tv/twit and use code TWIT30 to receive 30% off all consumer subscriptions. That's itpro.tv/twit, and be sure to use the code TWIT30 to get you an additional 30% off for the lifetime of your active subscription. IT Pro TV. Build or expand your IT career and enjoy the journey. Thanks so much to IT Pro TV for sponsoring this week's episode of iOS Today. All righty, we are back in the saddle. Rosemary Orchard's top 10 apps. Tell me what is next on the list.
The next one up is Cardhop. So I have quite a few contacts in my phone book. I've, done a lot of traveling, met a lot of amazing people. And one of the things I've done over the years is collect a whole bunch of contacts. And it's lovely to be able to get in touch with them. But the Contacts app is not necessarily my favorite way of looking at people. So I found Cardhop. It's by FlexiBits, the people who make Fantastical, an app which almost made it into my top 10, but not quite. But I find that a lot of people don't pay enough attention to their contacts on their phone, so they're out of date. And part of the problem with that is the Contacts app. And using Cardhop for me fixes that. It's got some cute stickers and iMessage too. But the real reason why I use it is because if you open somebody's calendar and their birthday's coming, you get confetti on the screen. And I just think that is such a cute, beautiful feature.
You mean like how your birthday is on January 11th and there's confetti on the screen for you? Oh, yep. How nice.
Yeah. Yep. And it's great because, I've got some friends whose birthday is next Wednesday. And from this Wednesday, so a couple of days before we record this show, the confetti was on their screen just to remind me to, maybe get a present or a card. I'd already done that. But, to help me stay ahead. And there's a whole birthday screen as well. So you can just see upcoming birthdays if you don't like them in your calendar. It's just great. I really love it. And it makes my life much easier with organizing my contacts because I keep people's Nintendo Switch player codes inside of Cardhop or inside contacts. And also when I talk to people and they give me a new piece of information. So a friend of mine recently announced she's pregnant and she's 6 months pregnant. And so I added that in the notes for her contact, and there's a little timestamp button. So when I add something to the notes, I can tap timestamp and then, friend said she's 6 months pregnant. And so then I know that, in about 2.5 months, I should probably send her a good luck message and check that to see if there's anything that I can post her that she'll need, because I'm guessing the global situation might not have massively improved by then. So I'm not going to be able to go and help out in person. But if there's something I can send her to help her out, then I'll check in and see if I can do that.
That's very smart. That's very smart. I like that. Tell me what's next. This is not only your favorite app, but I think the internet's favorite app, at least the iOS using portion of the internet's favorite app. Tell me what we're working with next.
Widgetsmith. Who doesn't love widgets? Everybody loves widgets. That's the answer. And I love Widgetsmith because it means that I can create pretty widgets to put on my home screen. And I've got so many. And I've got some pictures of myself and my partner that we took a while ago, and I've got those showing up on my home screen now because you can have those come up and it's super pretty. They've got all sorts of different backgrounds and themes, everything from, I think, Blizzard, which is one with snowflakes on, Candy Cane and Elf. Those are the holiday themed ones with a red and white striped border, to this wonderful 6 colors look, which, I just love. And you can customize everything and you can have different widgets. It can change to a different widget at a different time of day, which I think is a feature a lot of people don't realize. Yeah, Blizzard is pretty. It's really lovely. And it's a nice holiday themed widget without it being too holiday themed. You can still have it on your phone now, despite the fact that it's January, because it's pretty. And there's also lights, and who doesn't love
I was going to say lights is pretty,
so
as well. Yeah.
Yeah. But I really love that you can have it change to a different widget at a different time of day. So I have it show the date in one format between 8 a.m. and 1 p.m., which are my regular day job working times. And then I have it show a different kind of widget. It's the same widget, just different format outside of those times, because then it gives me a little visual cue when I look at my phone as to whether or not I'm working or not working.
There you go. And of course, there's moon phases and tides and your activity information. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff, including completely custom text if you want that, time in specific locations, which if you have a partner who lives in a different place, so maybe you're dealing with a long distance relationship, or you regularly are communicating with, your colleagues who live in a different place, it can be helpful to have glanceable knowledge of what time it is in those different locations. Yeah, definitely. And I have definitely got that, because obviously I have you and David Sparks, who are over on the West Coast. I have my co-host Scotty, who's in I think
Central-ish. I don't even remember what time zone he's in because I just look at my phone and it tells me what time it is for him. Mountain time. That's the one. Mountain time.
Yes. That one is
exactly.
I forget about that one a lot.
Exactly. Everybody forgets about that one, but it's a real time zone and you need to keep track of it. And so that's one of the other things I use Widgetsmith for.
Awesome. Widgetsmith is, of course, the app that made everybody's home screens aesthetic AF. So if you've heard that terminology and you were wondering kind of how they were going about doing that, Widgetsmith is the app in most cases that they were using. Underscore David Smith, the developer of the app, continues to iterate and improve upon it and add more features all the time. It is an actively updated app. And if you go to the entry in the App Store and look in the comments or the reviews, also very active there, listening to feedback and listening to potential suggestions for additions to the app. So I think it is one of those apps that investing in it is well worth the money because the developer clearly cares about continuing to improve and iterate for sure.
Definitely. Yeah. And I've seen some sneak peeks from the upcoming beta, and let's just say it's going to get even better because that's what David Smith does. So
yes, he makes a bunch of apps and makes some very powerful and very cool apps. Let us move on to the next app on your list.
Well, the next app of choice is by Brent Simmons. It was originally a Mac app. It went away for a while. It was sold and sort of disappeared. It's now back. It's NetNewsWire. This app I love for many reasons. First of all, it's a great app that's an RSS reader. And you can sign into a couple of different backends. So Feedbin is my choice because then I can have newsletters go to a special email with Feedbin. And it automatically converts it into an RSS feed for me. So things like Club Mac stories actually land in my feed reader, which is great. And I love this. But the other reason why I love this app is because if you're at all interested in iOS development, it's an open source application. So you can go on GitHub and find the code and actually look at it. And you can contribute. So if you found maybe a typo somewhere, I think the team are pretty on it. So you're probably not going to find a typo. But say, for example, you did. Even if you don't know how to fix it, then you don't just have to email a developer. You can open an issue and say, hey, I found a typo. Can somebody fix that? And then somebody will fix it. And you'll actually see and interact with some amazing iOS and Mac app developers who can, do great things. And these guys have been doing this for years, and they're super friendly and helpful. And they've just made this great RSS reader, which I really love. And for people not familiar, RSS is a special format that websites usually output so that you can automatically follow all of their updates. So, for example, all the blog posts over at thesweetsetup.com, you can get those as an RSS feed, or Manton Reese. He has a blog, and you can read all of their posts in one place. So you don't have to open lots of different websites. You can actually, find out more. And you can just follow it, and you don't have to have emails going into your inbox, filling things up. You can just, take a look and go, oh yeah, this is interesting. I'll read this. Or nah, none of these are interesting. Mark all is read, done, and move on.
And of course, podcasts, RSS feeds.
Yes.
With
so it's not a podcast
tags added,
app.
But
yeah. So you can't listen to a podcast in it necessarily. It's not super great for that, but it is great for getting updates about podcasts.
And tell me about this next one, because I have literally no idea what it is and what it does, but it has a cool name, and yes. I'm curious about it.
So the next app is Yoink, and you might remember, Mikah, when split screen first came to the iPad with drag and drop, everybody was going nuts over different shelf apps. And I had a look, and I eventually settled on Yoink. And Yoink has a special place in my heart just because it's very easy to use. And you have a different shelf, essentially, for each device. So there's a macOS app as well, but there's an iPad and an iPhone app. And every one of your devices gets its own shelf. But thanks to the magic of iCloud, you can access your shelves on other devices. And you can just put anything in there, and you can lock it so that things will stay there. Or if it's not locked, then you can put something in there and then you share it out and you're done, and it just disappears. So it's a great temporary holding place for all sorts of things, be that websites or files That's my most commonly used one, but also images and all sorts of things. And you can add to it through the share sheet, which is super easy, or with drag and drop.
So it's like AirDrop, but without using AirDrop.
Yeah, but it's also just internally on one device. So say, for example, I have a couple of different files that I need to email to you as prep for our next show. Well, I can go and collect those, going through different websites and things and dragging all the links and everything into place. And then I can open up my email app, type my email to you, dragging the links in where I need them, adding the attachments at the bottom. And then when I'm done, they'll disappear from Yoink as I go, so I know that I've got everything. And then I hit send, and I've just sent it off to you.
So it's a little bit like a clipboard, a very powerful clipboard.
Yeah,
and
it's a very powerful clipboard
that syncs between devices if you want it to as well.
Yeah, exactly. So if you open up Yoink on, say, your iPhone, you're not going to see the files you save there from your iPad. But if you open the Files app on your iPhone, you can see the files that you save there from your iPad, which I find is quite a nice way to do that, because it allows you to actually, get at all these things. There's also a keyboard, which I completely forgot to mention. So you can, if you save something to Yoink, then you can open, say, Messages, and you can just switch to the Yoink keyboard on screen and send that file, which is great. It means that it's available in every application.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm sort of playing with it now to better understand it. But certainly on a multitasking device like the iPad, that drag and drop functionality that you're talking about makes the most sense. So the one example that you gave, I think, was a really good one. I know I'm about to draft an email, and I know I need to have, say you're sending off a T-shirt to be printed. And so you're sending it to your screen printer, and you've got the CSV list of the people who want a T-shirt, and then you've got the TIFF file or the PNG or the Adobe Illustrator file, or maybe you want to send multiple. So you're going into each of those different apps and adding it to Yoink. You're adding the CSV from Sheets or something like that. Then you go to these other apps and collect the things that you need from there. Then you go to your email, and you have your email on one side of the iPad and Yoink on the other side, and then you can just take all of those different things that you have and drag them and drop them into the email. Yeah. Now, does Yoink work on Mac as well? I can't remember if you said that.
Yeah, so there is a Mac application, and that just lives on the side of your screen. So whenever you start dragging something, it pops up so you can drop it in there, and then it hides itself if there's nothing in there, which is great. And I find it works super well for things like this, because it means that I can just drag stuff there, and it doesn't save a copy of the file, it saves a reference to the file. So it means that you don't have, if you drag a, say, 60 gigabyte file in there, you're not going to have two 60 gigabyte files on your Mac suddenly. You're just going to have, that one. And then you can drag them out, and you can, do everything that you need to do with moving files around. Especially, I find if I'm working on a small Mac, one of my work machines is a 12-inch MacBook. It's very difficult to have, lots of windows open for things. So I just drag everything into Yoink as I'm finding things, and then I drag it all out at the same time, and I'm done.
Gotcha. And I see the developer also makes an app called Transloader, which I now have to have. It is an app that lets you, this is one of my eternal issues, is that sometimes on iOS, there are files that I may want to download, but there's no, there might be a shortcut I could use if I go and find that shortcut to download the file. But really what I want to do is get it to my Mac. And so Transloader, it basically lets you add links on your iPhone and iPad that then download on your Mac automatically. So I think that's very cool. Very easy to do.
Sneaky background for people. The wonderful software that you're currently using to show off your iPhone and iPad as we talk, I still need to get experience with it. But yesterday when we were doing our prep, I downloaded it and I sent it to my Mac with Transloader, because obviously, that's something you install on your Mac. So I downloaded it on my Mac, from my iPad, which was brilliant.
Yes, that's perfect. Well, there you go. So I know it works, and it's something that you use. I'm definitely going to be checking out the Yoink Transloader and an app called ScreenFloat made by the developer for sure. So let us talk about the final app. This is one that I do have that I've used a little bit, but I think not to the full extent that could be used. And I have a feeling that you have. I know that you've played around with iBeacon's technology. And so tell me about the app called Pushcut and what all we can do with Pushcut.
Okay, so Pushcut is an app with multiple different facets. So the facet that I probably use the most is the server, but we're going to get to that last. The first one that I'm going to talk about is just it can send you smart notifications to tell you to let you run shortcuts. So we all know that shortcuts automations, some of them can run without asking. Some of them are ask when run, but things like the location-based ones are all ask when run. So if you get somewhere, then it can ask you to run a shortcut. But what Pushcut can do is it can pop up a notification and then it can give you a choice of different shortcuts or HomeKit scenes to run. So say, for example, when you get home, you might want to run my watching TV scene, or you might want to run your washing hands scene, which turns all the lights in your bathroom blue. Or maybe you want to turn on the heating. And things like that. And so it can pop that up and show you a choice of different options for you to, actually go ahead and use, which means that instead of it just automatically doing one thing, you get a choice of things to do and you choose which one's appropriate, if it's appropriate to do any of them. Because sometimes maybe, you get home in the middle of the day, it's warm. You don't want the heating on. You don't want the lights on. You just went for a walk. So, you probably should wash your hands, but you don't have to wash your hands immediately. So making all the bathroom lights blue right at this second is not necessary. So it allows you to do that. Or when I leave home, it prompts me to run my robot vacuum. I don't have a Roomba. I've got a Eufy robot vacuum. It prompts me to do that because I don't like having it run on a schedule, because you can guarantee that that's the time that I'm going to have a conference call. Whatever time I put it for, either it's going to wake me up or I'm going to have a conference call that I need to be on, or I'm recording a podcast. So instead I have it prompt me to do that. The other way, which is probably the second most common way that I use Pushcut, is to send myself reminders to run shortcuts at a certain time. So, for example, when I run my setup script to make sure that I'm prepped for this week's iOS Today, I also have it schedule a Pushcut notification for 15 minutes before the start of the show. And then it pops up 15 minutes before the start of the show and says, hey, run your iOS Today recording shortcut. And this means that if we ever have to remove our recording time for whatever reason, it's not going to pop up statically at 1:45 every single time. It'll run at 15 minutes before whatever our recording time is, which means that then my phone goes into Do Not Disturb, my lights get turned on, and things like that. And as we go, then it will obviously evolve to do more things. But that is one of the ways that I use it. So I also have it calculate, for example, how long my driving time is. And it suggests then 15 minutes before the end of it that I should turn on my heating. Now, obviously, this only works if I'm going to be the passenger in the car. I can't really be tapping on notifications while driving. But if I'm going home and I've been out, then I run my driving shortcut when I get back in the car. And it says, hey, you're going to be home in less than 15 minutes. I'll turn on the heating. Or would you like me to ask you if you want to turn on the heating when you're 15 minutes away? Or it can say, would you like me to just turn on the heating when you're 15 minutes away from home? And the way it just turns on the heating is the third facet of Pushcut, which is the Pushcut automation server. So this requires you to have a spare iPhone or iPad, but basically it's just an app. It sits there in the background all the time and it waits. And it waits for something to happen. So you can have shortcuts run automatically every 15 minutes or every 60 minutes or at 9 a.m. every day, all sorts of different things. And this can also do things like pick up information from If This Then That or Zapier, which can then call it. And it can then run automations. It can run HomeKit scenes and all of that. And that is how I frequently turn on my heating automatically when I'm getting home from the supermarket, because that's the only place I'm going at the moment. Supermarket's about 20 minutes away. And so I drive for 5 minutes and then it automatically turns on my heating for me so that when I get home, my house is not quite as chilly, but I am still saving energy while I'm out because all of my heating is off.
This is, again, an incredibly nerdy app for sure. And I say that in the best way. A very powerful app, but for a particular I think, subset of folks who understand how to use these tools. It was my way of playing around with iBeacons technology. And I do have a few iBeacons medallions sitting around that I've used with it. And it works. It's a fascinating app and tool. And anybody who wants to experiment with webhooks and any of that kind of stuff should definitely check out Pushcut to sort of take their automations to the next level, I think.
Yes. Yeah. I find it's a great way for me to enhance my shortcuts. So say, for example, my washing machine shortcut that I mentioned earlier, where I start my washing machine and it checks the energy level. It's doing that in the background with Pushcut Automation Server that's running right here on this iPhone. If I tap it, then it should wake up and show you some of the requests. It's a little difficult to see. And now it's just gone off and run a shortcut for me and it's going back. But that runs on there. So I start a shortcut and then it tells the server, hey, can you just check in on the washing machine every 10 minutes? If the energy level is 0, can you check on it again 2 minutes later? If it's still 0, then send me a notification. And that notification then says, hey, move the stuff from the washer to the dryer. And when I tap on it, it offers to run the matching shortcut for the dryer where it monitors the dryer energy usage. So
nice.
That's how I'm doing that. It's very, very nerdy. I will definitely grant that. But if all you do is say, hey, I've run this thing, I want to have a notification pop up in 15 minutes that asks me to run this shortcut, that is something that you can do. So it's a great way of enhancing your shortcuts experience if you want to do that.
There you go. Yeah. Well, folks, that is Rosemary Orchard's top 10 apps. So many more, I'm sure, and many that we will see in the coming weeks and years as we talk about, as we choose our app caps and as we continue to share some of those apps sprinkled throughout. So I appreciate you for narrowing it down a little bit for the sake of the show and for getting in 10 of those apps. Now, folks, it is time to talk about the news. The news is up next here on iOS Today. All righty. Up first, we have the iOS 14.4 beta may be hinting at the introduction of something called guided audio walking workouts. So this was something that was spotted by a person who has the beta installed, and they launched the workout app for the Apple Watch on their phone, and there was a setting in it called Add Newest Workouts to Watch. And in it, it says, time to walk workouts are downloaded when Apple Watch is connected to power and near your iPhone. Now, what this seems to suggest is that it sends guided audio workouts from your iPhone to the Apple Watch that then will work with you while you're walking. So, you take off, you put your AirPods in, and you have them just connected to your Apple Watch. You don't need to bring your phone along or anything like that. And somebody is walking you through a walking workout. This reminds me of Zombies Run, which was this app/service that encouraged running by kind of taking you through these levels and the story of basically being chased by zombies and you trying to survive. That's what this kind of reminds me of. And so I think this is very cool. The idea that, because I think that that's one of the things that can get kind of boring about certain exercises that feel very repetitive is it's like, oh, we're doing the same thing again and again and again and again and again and again. I'm kind of bored now. But to have somebody kind of talking you through it and saying, okay, we're going to pick up the pace here. You're going to fast walk a little bit. Okay, move those hips a little bit while you're walking. Okay, now you're fast walking. I think would be very helpful. And yeah, by the way, I'm available if you want to have me walk you through your walkouts there.
I'm hiring you. You're hired, Mike.
Yes. So yeah, I'm curious. Do you think that this is something that you would be interested in? Do you have you used any of the Apple Fitness stuff in general? Kind of, what are your thoughts on that as a whole?
Yes. So I've tried a couple of the Apple Fitness classes, but, it came out right before the holidays. So I then followed that with multiple days of eating large quantities of food, specifically chocolate, because apparently everybody got me chocolate for Christmas, which was amazing. Don't get me wrong. Very happy with that. But I might have undone any of the good that I did with the Fitness Plus classes. So I should probably restart those. And I enjoyed the few that I've tried. They seem pretty good. But I definitely like the idea of these guided audio ones specifically for walking, or maybe in the future for running. So I've done Couch to 5K before, and that's quite similar. It tells you, it depends on which app you use, but the app I used was very good at telling you, okay, so now you're just going to start off with, a nice walk, at a reasonable pace. You don't want to be going too slow, and then pick it up. And now you're going to jog, and you're going to jog for 1 minute. Okay, 10 seconds left. And now you can go back to walking. And it was very good. And I really liked that. So I think it would be great to have more things like that get us outside, because especially at the moment, you can go outside to exercise here in the UK, but that's, unless you're going to the supermarket, that's pretty much your only reason to go out. So I would love to have some more guided reminders of how I can, improve just going out for a walk into something better. There's a lovely park near where I live. Actually, there's a couple of parks. So I'm going to be going out and exploring those more as the weather warms up, and making the most of that seems like a great idea to me.
For sure. I think that this is something that I would, like I said, quite enjoy. So we'll see if this comes out. And I just checked my watch, and that toggle is there on mine as well. So there have been some reports that Apple was, doing its next step and working on its Apple Car, or whatever, its plans in automotives are, and whether that's a self-driving car or whether that's a whole new sort of in-car entertainment, infotainment system, what have you. And Hyundai actually came... Sorry, it felt like the sneeze that I've been waiting to have was coming forward. It's haunting me. The sneeze is haunting me. If this doesn't make for a good social media bit, I don't know what does. Anyway, so I'll end up sneezing at the end of the show, and it'll be great. I hope. So anyway, Apple has been rumored to be working on a car for so very long. And, we've heard more mumblings and rumblings and tumblings lately. And then Hyundai came forward and said, hey, so Apple's actually working with us on a car. We're working with them on a car. We're sort of working together on a car. And now the company, because someone pointed out very easily, the quickest way to get Apple to not work with you on something is to tell everyone that Apple is working with you on something. And so now Hyundai has come forth and said, actually, that's not quite true. Hyundai revised its statement for the second time in a matter of hours, and said that it had been contacted by potential partners for the development of autonomous electric vehicles, and removed any reference to Apple. And also, I think that it said, we've been receiving requests for potential cooperation from various companies regarding development of autonomous EVs. No decisions have been made, as discussions are in early stage. Yeah, those early stage discussions probably just got closed down. So this is not a good look for sure. But no. I'm curious as a whole. I don't care about cars really. The occasional use of a car as a tool to get me from point A to point B is about the extent to which I care about a vehicle. But there are is it called muscle car heads, whatever they are, the gearheads, people who really care about vehicles. And I appreciate that and respect that. Where do you kind of fall in the Mikah, who doesn't care about cars at all, except as a tool to get from point A to point B? I guess I'm sort of not quite in the middle, but sort of to the left of center, where the people on the far left in this, it's not a political thing, it's just a car thing, are like, destroy all cars, everybody uses bikes or walks or uses public transportation. And then on the far right is like, cars. And so I'm curious, do you care about cars in general? Does an Apple car seem of interest to you? Or are you kind of like bikes for everybody?
Well, until recently, I lived in Vienna, the capital city of Austria, and I was all public transport, everything. It was amazing, except when you needed a car, because sometimes, if you go to IKEA, it's kind of difficult to bring home, a table on public transport. You can do it. I have done it, but it was very uncomfortable. Would have been made much easier with a car. So I used car sharing services. Now back here in the UK, public transportation, not so great outside of cities. So I have a car. It's a 10-year-old Honda Jazz. I think they're called a Honda Fit in the US.
Okay, yeah.
But it's a nice enough car. It was my grandmother's. She gave up driving. It became available. I said, okay, yes, I need a car. That's perfect. Thank you very much. So now I have a car, but I don't really, I'm not super interested in cars. I would love it if it had CarPlay. I do not have CarPlay. I really wish I did. So instead, I DIY'd CarPlay with a CD magnet mount, which magnetizes my MagSafe charger to it, and a USB to aux Bluetooth dongle, I guess is the right word. So that's plugged into the charger along with the MagSafe. And then whenever I get in the car, I can just put my phone on the MagSafe and it says, hey, would you like to run your shortcut for driving? Because, I have a shortcut for that where it plays my playlist and opens Google Maps for me, which is great. But I don't really care too much about cars. I mean, it would be interesting to see what an Apple car would be like. I'm guessing it would be more similar to a Tesla than a Honda. But, we'll have to see if we ever get to see. I would love to see the inside of Apple Park sometime where they're working on all of these things.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, that's just news to keep our eye on, of course. But whether it ends up happening and whether it ends up happening with Hyundai is up in the air for sure. Up next is a little bit of a rumor in the rumor mill about a new iPad Pro. So, I've got my 11-inch iPad Pro here, very happy with it. Had it for a long time now, very great. Mm-hmm. But apparently there's a new one that's rumored to be coming out in March. And It is supposed to be thicker due to the display technology and will feature a mini LED display. So this could be the first of Apple's pushes, I guess, into mini LED. A newer screen technology before micro LED that falls. It's interesting on MacBreak Weekly, the last episode, the Renee Ritchie and Leo in particular were kind of back and forth discussing OLED versus mini LED versus micro LED versus LCD and sort of how all of these fit in the scheme of things. And OLED has a lot of good things in the screen quality, or the picture quality is what the word I'm looking for. The picture quality and in terms of battery life. But there are so many issues with it that have to be mitigated by different technologies that it's kind of like plugging a bunch of holes in, a sieve or a sieve, depending on how you pronounce that, in a mesh colander. And so with that, it ends up costing a lot of money to get the technology how you want it. It's expensive to implement that technology. And so I think that companies continue to look at other options outside of OLED due to all of those problems. And one of those things is mini LED. So I wouldn't be surprised if this rumor is true, that we will see a new iPad Pro with mini LED, but that this will be the year, I think, of mini LED displays on Apple's devices. But I am curious, what do you think Apple is going to bring with this iPad Pro that makes it worth the upgrade? Because the last time they upgraded the iPad Pro, they added LiDAR. And is there something else that can be added to the iPad
they
Pro
added the
better?
extra cameras, right? So I have the Magic Keyboard for my 11-inch iPad Pro, but I'm running the previous generation 11-inch iPad Pro. So in the camera cutout, there's just this one little camera and then a square hole. Because I didn't see why I would need to upgrade my iPad. Sure, it's nice to have a slightly faster processor and things like that, but my 11-inch iPad Pro is freaking amazing because it works great with that Magic Keyboard. Oh my God, I love that so much. Especially the trackpad, using that with something like Jump Desktop if I need to remote back into my Mac. it's just great. And that's, I'm pretty much using my iPad all the time whenever I can. But I don't know what they can add. I mean, I'm sure Apple will find a way to sell it to us. They always try. But the iPad Pro line is very solid. I'm guessing what we're going to see is a processor bump. And better cameras, though I'm still not sure how frequently people genuinely use cameras, except for the front-facing one on the iPad. And unfortunately, on the iPad Pro, if you're using it with either the Smart Keyboard or the Magic Keyboard, that camera's in the wrong place. It really needs to be on the side with the Apple Pencil. Maybe we'll see two front-facing cameras, one on the Apple Pencil side and one on the other side, so that you can hold it in portrait or landscape and the camera will be top center. However you want to use it. That would be pretty cool, especially considering how much people are doing video conferencing right now. But I'm not sure, what else they can do. Obviously, mini LED would be great, but it looks like that would only be an option on the 12.9-inch iPad, and it would make the iPad thicker. Well, if you've already got a Smart Keyboard or a Magic Keyboard, they're not super cheap. In fact, they're pretty darn expensive. I believe the Magic Keyboard is $300 for the 11-inch, and it's more if you've got the 12.9-inch. If you already have a 12.9-inch iPad and you want to upgrade, are you going to have to upgrade your Magic Keyboard too? That suddenly takes what is already an expensive, upgrade to a very expensive upgrade. And especially if you are not the only person in charge of your finances, explaining that to somebody else, like, say, your accountant. Well, yes, I need this because it has a slightly better screen, which doesn't really affect what I do. That could be an interesting conversation to have.
Yeah, indeed. I'm good as far as updating mine, because I do have the multiple camera one with the LiDAR, and it's just such a good device. And it feels like, where we are with iPhones a little bit, in terms of what do you do after you get to a point that's very good? What do you, how can you continue to iterate on the technology? Because I don't know. It's very good as it is. So we'll see.
It is.
I always say this, and then I always end up, one of the reasons is I've got to review some of these products, so I always end up getting them for that reason. But in terms of keeping them around and actually using them, that's where it's like, I don't know if it's the right thing for me.
Out of curiosity, when's the last time you used the camera on your iPad Pro? Not the front-facing one, the back-facing one.
Right.
Do you remember?
That is no. Yeah, I don't.
Okay, I remember because I did it in September, just after I moved into this place. I had to take a photograph with the back of my TV. So I had the model number so I could set it up with my Logitech Harmony. And I was using my phone for something else at the time. And so, I had the Logitech Harmony app open on my phone, and I didn't want to swipe to the camera because it was resetting every time I exited the app. So instead, I used my iPad to take a photo of the back of my TV. But that was the last time I used it, in September last year.
Yeah. See, I don't use it. I don't really use it ever.
Yeah. And so it's upgrading to the new camera, unlike with the iPhone, is not a guaranteed upsell for Apple.
Exactly. Agreed. The last bit is that apparently accessory makers are already working on accessories for what I see as an accessory, which is the Apple's rumored AirTags. AirTags are these little devices that will give spatial awareness and tracking to items, to your personal items. So the idea is that you might have keys that you lose all the time. And so you tie them to the AirTags, and then you can find them in the space. And they're supposed to work with AR and use the ultra wideband chip that's in the iPhone now, in the Apple Watch, and in the HomePod Mini to help you figure out where that device might be. Because of that, there are apparently some companies like Nomad who are creating cases for these devices already, even though Apple has not announced these, and they've only been rumored up to this point and been rumored to be announced multiple times and still not actually come out. So this is just funny to me. Do you think we're ever going to see AirTags? Are AirTags a real thing, or is it just one of those TV by Apple?
Were AirPods Max announced for, or people unofficially knew that they were coming, And we didn't have cases for those when they landed. And I would really like a case for mine. My Waterfield one hasn't arrived yet. But I mean, I currently have Tiles. And apparently Tile are also working on adding ultra wideband to their trackers. So I'm wondering how many of these things that, Nomad and other companies are definitely making can also be upscaled to fit something similar like a Tile. Because if they can do that, if they can say, hey, whichever one you get, you can slide it in here, obviously, depending on size. If the AirTag is more similar to, say, this NFC chip that I have right here than a Tile, which is about this large, then, that you're going to want a different thing. But, it would be interesting if you could get the same sort of thing for multiple devices. And I think that considering how long these things have been rumored for and what happened with AirPower, it might be smart for some of these companies to hedge their bets.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Alrighty, let us move on to the feedback segment of the show. It's feedback and questions up next here on iOS Today. Speaking of iPads, the first question we have here is a question from Bob, who writes, I'm looking to buy a new iPad this year. I dropped my iPad Pro 10.5 inch and the lightning connector broke off inside the port, with a very anguished emoji face. I've been charging it via the smart connector with a Logitech dock. That was smart, Bob, which is fine while I'm stuck at home. My iPad fills the gap between my iPhone and my desktop Mac, so I'm considering the models of iPad Air or iPad Pro, or waiting to see if there's an A14Z Pro coming in the first quarter of 2021. Any advice? Bob, my first bit of advice is not to count that iPad out of the running, because there are some options for you. We'll include in the show notes a link to an iFixit page that has some different suggestions for things to do. One person did a sort of a picking thing around the port to get the thing out. My suggestion would be what the second person says here in the show notes, which says, I put just a tiny dibbity dab of crazy glue on the cable side. I put the tip and the cable together and waited for it to dry about a minute or so, and then pulled it out with no problems. That would be. So
you're going to want to throw the cable after you've done that, I think.
Yes, don't use the cable after that for sure, and make sure that you. I would use the gel type of super glue, because that way it's not going to spread out into the port more. You just want it to be there on the end of the port. And then some other people suggest they've got, different, let's see, this is another good idea. My husband used a very tiny bit in a battery powered drill and drilled into the middle of the piece that was stuck in the charging port, and then just simply took it out. Also a good idea. So I've got a Dremel that has very tiny bits that would do that just fine. So there are some options if you just want to save this. As we were just talking about, our iPad Pros of, models past are fantastic, and we've seen no reason to upgrade them. But if you are thinking about, moving into the future with a new iPad, I would say keep using this 10.5 until we see the announcement of the latest iPads, because at least then you'll have the option to upgrade to one of those if you want. And in the meantime, you figured out the brilliant solution, the way to keep it charged. And we've given now some thoughts on how to fix it. What are your thoughts, Rosemary? Feel the same?
Well, I would definitely say wait until the new iPad is announced, because at the very least, if you then go, okay, well, the technology in it seems amazing, but I would totally be fine with the previous generation or the previous generation, like the one I've got and I'm using, and I love it. It's great. Then you can go on the Apple Refurb store and get those at a discount. You can do that right now, actually, with both the 11-inch iPads that are available. So I would recommend having a look at those, as well as the current iPad Air. I don't think that one's available on the Refurb store yet. But if it is, Refurb store is definitely a great option, which is more affordable than buying, brand new from Apple, but is basically brand new from Apple and comes with all the regular warranties and everything. And of course, if there's a new iPad out, then everything drops in price just a little bit, which makes it even more affordable to do that upgrade if that's what you really want to do.
Amen. Perfectly put. Our next question comes from Ben. Ben writes in to say, hey, what was that relationship app that Mikah spoke about on the 1222 podcast? So the 1222 podcast that Ben is talking about is the Best Ofs episode that was released on 1222. And so it was a clip from an earlier episode where I actually talked about this app as my app pick of the week. The app is called The And. It's a little funky in terms of the formatting. So the best thing you can do is go to the show notes and click on the link because it's the open curly bracket, close curly bracket, and is technically the name of the app. But this is a digitization of a physical card game that my partner and I found very powerful, found very, it was very good. I don't know how else to put it other than to say it was very good. It has some kind of tough but strengthening questions, if you will, for folks in a relationship. There are different versions. It's all sorts of relationships. It's not just romantic relationships. It's also familial relationships. So there's one where you play it specifically with your father. There's one where you play it specifically with your mother. There's one where you play it with your family. There's ones where you play it with your new friends, with old friends, and with your partner. And these different cards have different prompts. And so it starts with you sort of the game sort of forces you take a breath, and it won't show you the card yet, and then it shows you the card and you read it and each of you answer it. So I can't could you pop open the preview so I could read one of the questions? So one of them, it says, what do you love most about our friendship? And another one says, what's your greatest fear about growing older? And so these are some really deep questions. And like I said, both my partner and I found it very just good and genuine. And I don't want to say healing because there wasn't anything to heal necessarily, but it was all around a positive experience. And I learned more about him. He learned more about me. And we sort of came out of it stronger. So anybody who has personal relationships, which is anybody who doesn't, live in a cave somewhere, should check out this game for sure. The And on the App Store. All right. Last piece here is from Jason. Jason writes in and says, I recently bought a 3-pack of Eros, and after 7 years of arguing and fighting with my ISPs, I am free. The Eros have literally solved the connection issues in my house. I cannot thank you enough. I only wish that I could be on an Eero commercial. Jason, that's awesome. I'm so glad. I'm so happy for you. I use Eros here in my home, and they are fantastic and have solved a lot of my connection issues. Did I hear a yeah from you?
Yeah. I got Eros, I think November or so, because I have weird connectivity issues ever since I moved to this place in September. Nothing was working. And even though I'd run Ethernet under my carpet through my living room and hallway into my office, literally the other side of the house, I was still getting weird issues with stuff not quite working and so on. So I bought a 3-pack of Eros. I'm using 2 of them. I gave my parents 1 because my place is very small. And everything works so well now. And their internet is rock solid as well now, even though they've only got 1 Eero in a bigger place. I was going to tell them to buy a 3-pack, but they seem happy. So I won't do that.
And then Jason goes on to say, anyway, I've heard you guys talking about ExpressVPN a few times, and it is something that I was thinking about implementing. I like the thought of privacy, but I'm trying to make it super simple. I believe I heard you talking about installing it on the router to save some of the hassle. Am I imagining that, or is that possible? Yes. So yeah, tell me more, because you found a link that I didn't know was there. So tell me about this. What's going on?
So Eero itself doesn't provide VPN support, but ExpressVPN can be installed on routers or routers, depending on pronunciation and location. I'm here in the UK, so I say router, you say router, whatever. It's all the same, tomato, tomato, potato, potato. Let's call the whole thing off. But anyway, you can use something like ExpressVPN, but there will be another device between the first wall and your first Eero, and that is what you would need to install something like ExpressVPN on, because Eero supports VPN pass-through, which means that if there is a VPN running on the device, that is actually providing the Eero's connection to the internet, then that can be passed through to all of your devices, but the Eero itself can't run a VPN. So that is going to be your best option here. And ExpressVPN does have guides to setting up VPNs on your router. Depending on what you've got, but there are a lot of different ones out there. So I'm not going to provide any guidance there because mine is from the UK. It's an interesting router. It's got some amazing settings, and then it's got some other things that made me go, but wait, what? For example, I can't change my DNS. Fortunately, I'm doing that on the Era, so I'm running Pi-hole on a Raspberry Pi, and I've blocked all of the ads at home. But I'm not running a VPN service for my router. I run those on individual devices when I need them. So I would suggest checking with the ExpressVPN site. We've got a link for that, which we can put in the show notes, I hope. Then you're going to have to do some Googling with your router to see whether or not you're going to be able to install that. Maybe if you just open up the config page, it's something like 192.168.0.1 or .1.1. Then you might be able to just find a configure VPN button. And if you can do that, just do that. If you don't find it, then you're going to have to do a little bit more digging, I'm afraid. It's one of those things that can be quite tricky to set up. But if that's what you want to do, then you should be able to do it, I hope.
Yeah. And of course, probably if you've watched any of our shows, you've probably heard me talk about this before because ExpressVPN is a sponsor. But the simplest thing in the world to turn on ExpressVPN, Jason, you talked about, making it simple. Even if we don't go to the router level, and we go to each device, I literally just open the app, I turn it on, and I'm done. And one of the things that I have actually implemented in a few cases, if you have, say when you launch the browser, you don't want to go online without having your VPN turned on. I set up a shortcut that checks to see if my VPN, I made an app tile that looks, that is like Safari browser essentially. Mm-hmm. And instead of it actually being Safari, it's a shortcut and it runs and it says, is your VPN turned on? And if it's not, then it launches the ExpressVPN app where I just tap the power button and it turns it on. And then I can go and launch Safari. And then if the VPN is already turned on, then it just launches Safari and it's no problem. So if you are concerned and you want to sort of not have to remember, then you can do that. But I also have to say that I almost never turn off the VPN because with ExpressVPN, I know that they're a sponsor, but it's so fast and I've had no issues with it that I don't need to turn it off really. So your iOS devices can persist with maintaining that connection to the VPN. So turn it on your iPad or your iPhone or whatever, and just let it stay on and you're good to go.
There are
some
another
ways, as you
handy
suggested.
little tip that I have, which is in the ExpressVPN app, there is an auto connect page. This is a little difficult to see on my phone, but it is there. I promise you, it's under settings and then auto connect. And if you have that enabled, then whenever your connection to ExpressVPN is disrupted, it will automatically reconnect. So if you manually turn off your VPN, then it'll stay off. But if it accidentally disconnects, for example, your device is, out of battery or something, or, something else just pops up, then, it will automatically reconnect. And I believe that's a feature in the Mac app as well. But that's something that you can definitely do on iPhone and iPad.
There you go. All righty. I think it is time for us to place caps upon our heads because it is time for our app caps.
Woo! I've technically cheated today, Mikah. I don't have a cap. I'm wearing ears, but I think you'll let me get away with it if I bribe you,
hands
maybe.
Down. They're very delightful ears. I am wearing, this is a repeat hat, but I got to say, it looks really good with my green Taylor Store, which has been a sponsor in the past, my green Taylor Store jacket. So it all works. And I felt very stylish with this hat on today. So we wear these caps upon our heads to celebrate our app caps. These are our app picks of the week, either the apps that are new and we're excited about, or apps that we've been using for a long time and we want to share with all of you. So Rosemary, tell me, what is your app cap?
Well, my app cap is a double take by the people who make Filmic Pro. So sometimes you want to record a video, and I often do this when trying to explain something for my parents. So I had an issue with my toilet the other day. My dad has done many things in his life, including plumbing. And so I wanted to be able to, like wave things at him, but also not have to flip the camera backwards and forwards every time. And so I used Filmic Pro to record a video with my little head floating in a corner and then the toilet being the main feature. It was a wonderful video. I'm sure he absolutely loved it. He's going to save that one in his archives forever. But it meant that I could record both videos at the same time using one app on my phone and just send it to him. There was no trying to cut stuff together in iMovie afterwards on my iPad or anything like that. All things I could have done, absolutely could have done, but I didn't need to do that. I just used Filmic Pro and sent him the file, and this was free. So it's a great app.
Awesome. Yeah, we've talked a little bit about it on the show from time to time, and it's definitely one that we can recommend, especially given that it was, rumored, or it was originally announced as part of a more expensive app and then came out as a free version. The app that I am talking about today is called TextCraft. TextCraft is an app that lets you, let me do a little fix here. There we go. Is an app that lets you copy text in a bunch of different formats. There have been some other apps out there that do this. And I think it's been Text Case, I think is the name of the other app. And I think I've actually had it as a app cap in the past. But what I love about this one is that it has even more options. So you can type in a thing of text. And so I just put, if you like it, then you should have put a ring on it, which I know is slightly off in terms of grammar. But anyway, and then it has all these different options. There's uppercase, lowercase, which are normal, reversed characters, initials. There's ROT13, bold, italics. Now, those ones, I'm going to go ahead and say all these little, cutesy pootsy text types that are cursive and Gothic and all of those. For the love of God, please don't use those. They're incredibly inaccessible to folks who use screen readers. And so while it looks like it's cute, there's a large swath of the internet that can't even understand what it is that you're actually saying, because the screen reader is going to read those as they are intended to be read, which is in many cases as part of mathematical formulae and other things like that. So just be mindful of that. There's replacing words with emoji. If you've got a thing of text that you don't want emoji to be in, then you can have them taken out, removing punctuation. But then it gets down to a place where there are some very handy tools, like removing links or stripping HTML or encoding for a URL or decoding a URL. For some of these that I have actually been able to use for show notes documents, where all of the apps are, in a list. And what I want them to do is to be taken from a list and then turned into just a series with commas after them. And so, yes, you can, use shortcuts. You can do some stuff like, I can't think of now what the tool is called. But
split text and combine text?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All those different tools to do that. This is just one place where all of these are available to take those and adjust them how you want. Removing vowels, removing consonants. I mean, there are some really silly ones in here, but see, converting to a dashed line and converting from a dashed line list, very helpful. And you can make adjustments to it so that you don't have all of those available. It has options in the share sheet to add or remove them. So you can highlight text and basically send it into TextCraft and make adjustments. And then it also includes symbols that are commonly used, including fraction symbols, which I use more often than I ever thought I would personally, but then more often than one might think. These fractions are available to just copy and paste, and superscript numbers, subscript numbers, some mathematical symbols, all sorts of things in here that you would maybe use. I think the only complaint that I have had about this app since I downloaded it is that it would be great if this wasn't just a long list and instead was a grid, so that you could see more at a time.
Especially on the iPad. Imagine that on a 12.9-inch iPad Pro. That would be quite frustrating. But hopefully the app developer will do that. And I love the fact that there are the table flip emoji and things like that, the super cute ones, which are, of course, built out of, unfortunately, inaccessible characters, but they do look cute. And I do use them in messages to friends and so on when I'm messaging with people who will not be using a screen reader.
Exactly. So yeah, that's TextCraft. It's available in the App Store as a completely universal app for $6.99. That means that it's available by buying it. I have it on the Mac. I have it on my iPad. I have it on my iPhone. I've got it everywhere. And so it's become a universal tool then that I can use no matter where I am. And it has some excellent ratings and reviews so far. And it's just been a handy tool for me. So TextCraft, a universal app available in the App Store for $6.99. Oh, wow. That brings us to the end of our first show of 2021 with Rosemary Orchard as co-host. Congratulations, Rosemary. I'm so happy to have you here. Thank you for this episode. This was great.
Well, thank you for this episode as well. And also thank you to all the people working behind the scenes, because I know that there are quite a few of them doing all of the magic there to make this look as great as possible. So it's been wonderful, and I'm really looking forward to the rest of this year and everything else to come as well.
Yes, indeed. Folks, if you have questions, feedback, other things, you can send those to us. It's iOS Today at twit.tv, iOS Today at twit.tv. Now's a good time for me to put out the request that you please go rate and review the show. That is an incredibly helpful thing for us. You just head into the Apple Podcasts app, the Google Podcasts app, wherever there's a place to put stars or thumbs ups or write out text. It would be so helpful. The reviews in there, I think, haven't been updated in quite a while, and we've got a whole new, not format per se, but a whole new remix of the show. And so now would be the perfect time for you to send out and let other people know what you think of our show here. And that would be very helpful. Of course, this is also a time for me to mention the TWiT 2021 audience survey, because yes, it is indeed January. So that means that it's time to fill out the TWiT 2021 survey. You head to twit.tv/survey21. And if you're wondering, why do I need to go do that? Well, I'll tell you why. It's because it lets us know who all of you are, all of our listeners out there. Not precise details, but to give us a better understanding of who we're talking to. And we want to thank you, of course, for being here. And so that helps us make the show better. It helps us make great sponsor choices. It helps us all around, and it'll take you, no more than 5 minutes. There are questions you don't have to answer, but we do appreciate that. So twit.tv/survey21, because it is 2021. So please do go fill out that survey for us. Of course, we are recording the show live at our new time, which is every Thursday at I'm going to tell you here in just a second. Oh, my goodness, it is Friday.
Yes.
Every Friday, thank you, at 2 p.m. Eastern, which is 11 a.m. Pacific, which is 1800 UTC. So twit.tv/live will get you there so you can tune in live. But the best way to get the show is on your own time, and you get it by subscribing. twit.tv/iOS. By doing that, you can subscribe to the show in audio and video formats, in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. That is where you go to subscribe to the show. And that's the best way to do it, because then you get it as soon as it's ready. I think that pretty much covers it, except Rosemary Orchard. If folks want to follow you online and check out all the other stuff that you're doing, what's the best place for them to go?
It's probably going to be Twitter or micro.blog. My username on both is Rosemary Orchard. So you can find me there. And of course, if you tweet at me, I will do my best to tweet back. And yes, you'll find me here every week, unless, Mikah has a dastardly plan to, secretly adopt me or something, in which case, I might be doing this from somewhere else, but hopefully not.
Yes, things will stay the same in a good way. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you next week on iOS Today. Goodbye.